Hello, and welcome to the Total Mind Success Podcast. My name is Donick S. Cause. My guest today is Jeanette Chasworth. She is the color whisperer, so I can't wait to find out what that's all about. So, Jeanette, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So tell us, first of all, what is a color whisperer?
Well, whisperer, you hear a lot of people using that, and
Right.
I use the term, my clients actually gave it to me because of the way I listen to houses. And when I'm picking out colors for my client, I'll kind of, I don't have a better way to say it except that they talk to me.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a voice in my head exactly, but I just it says, this is right.
Okay.
I did have a client at one point that was really funny. Guy, there was no signs of any girls around the house. I couldn't, I don't know anything about his personal life, but there was no signs of anything. We get to his bedroom, and I keep finding the paint deck keeps telling me I want this kind of gray purple taupe color. And I'm looking at this guy who, he's very masculine looking, Italian, right? I'm like, okay, there's just no way. And the paint deck, no, this is right. This is right. This is right. So finally I looked at him and I said, what do you think of this color? And he goes, oh my gosh, this is my favorite color. How did you know?
Wow.
So that's where the whispering comes in, because there was nothing in the house that led, he was kind of like Carmine from Laverne and Shirley. You wouldn't think of pink for him, right?
Right, yeah.
Or this soft kind of color. But it's what worked, and we put it up on the wall, and everything was fantastic. So.
Oh, cool. So now you've got a book on color. What's the title, and tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is called What's Color Got to Do with It? And it talks about all the different aspects of color. And my clients, have asked me, well, how do you do what you do? And I don't know how to put the whispering part down.
Yeah. Not with a new client.
You got to get me for that.
Yeah.
But I went through all the book learning stuff that I've got in my head that helps with the whispering. So I talk a bit about color theory, which when you're watching HGTV and, they used to have those shows where you could do everything in a weekend, and they'd show the colors and you go, ew, and then they put it up on the wall and you go, oh, that's not so bad.
Okay.
It talks about which colors work well together and why.
Uh-huh.
I also talk about the psychology of color, which, colors affect every aspect of our lives. We are constantly being influenced by color every time we turn around, and most people aren't aware of it. And then I talk about the personality of color, which we all have our own energies and our own personalities, and by using the right colors and shapes to match those, it just makes you feel more at home in your home. And then there's some general painting tips as well. So it's pretty much a crash course in selecting colors for your home.
Okay. Now, you mentioned colors and people. Is this some aspect of it have to do with having your colors done? Or are we talking something more sophisticated?
It does stem from having your colors done in the fashion sense, and it has to do with different shapes, different textures. Each personality has different shapes. So it's kind of like the Myers-Briggs test, but it's done by the season. So, for instance, I'm in autumn, so I like fall colors, and that's what gives me energy and makes me feel alive. And you put me in an all-white room, and it's just hell. I mean, that's my idea of hell.
Okay.
Somebody else, it's not.
Right.
So you have to have the colors around that really work with who you are.
Okay. Now, then it becomes tough if it's a couple and they have different attitudes on color. What do you do then?
Well, opposites attract, right?
For a while.
But usually there's a place where they come together. So, for instance, I'm in autumn, and autumn is all about action, movement, there's always change around me. That's what I do. So being interior designing and creating change in other people's lives is a good thing. my husband likes it when I'm changing other people's lives and not his, but he's a summer, and summer, it's just that summer is this kind of time of year where you want to lean back, you want to take things a little bit slower, and he helps me calm down, and I kind of give him a little kick. But where we both mesh is in texture.
Okay.
So his texture is a little bit smaller than mine. I can do more texture. So we just mix the textures. The style of furniture that fits him is a little bit lighter. So if it's a big piece of furniture, it's more likely to be heavy and more autumn. If it's a smaller piece of furniture, I do something that's more summer for him so that he doesn't feel overwhelmed. And I mix the two. As far as colors go, there are places where they mix, and so he's got a room that's his and is his color, and I've got a room that's mine and it's my color. And then we have the public areas, which are a little bit more on the neutral side and are where our colors mix.
Okay. Well, let's talk about specific colors and their moods, or the moods that they might enhance or actually work against. So let's just go through the spectrum. Paint a room red all the way to lavender or purple. So let's start with red.
Okay. So red it's love and hatred. It's a passion color. It's fight or flight. So if you're angry, you're seeing red. If you're head over heels in love, red. It's a great color that has a lot of energy to it. If you're somebody who likes a lot of energy, it's fantastic. It can be bad for if you've got heart issues, because it has so much energy, it actually raises the blood pressure. I mean, if you think about, it's either love or it's hatred, you're kind of feeling a great deal at that moment. You're feeling the opposite ends of the spectrum, but you're all the way there. So somebody who's got high blood pressure, who's got a lot of red in their room, it could actually be elevating that blood pressure and keeping it high unnecessarily.
Wow. Okay. Let's go to orange.
Orange is creativity. It's change. So back in the 70s, what was the big color? It was orange. I've got pictures that I'm afraid to show anybody, but we all do.
Okay.
And orange is a color that it's got a lot of high energy to it as well. You see it oftentimes in fast food places because it makes you hungry and it also makes you want to leave quickly. So the idea is that nobody has to shoo you away from the table. They just put colors there that you don't want to hang out in.
Interesting. Okay. Yellow.
Yellow. Yellow has a lot of variation. Yellow it's friendly. You think about happy faces. It's fun. It can be very sophisticated when you go more towards the gold. It can be very sophisticated, very elegant. It's a very friendly color. One really cool thing about yellow is that it helps you to learn better. So if you've got a subject in school that you're having a really hard time with, your kids are or whatever, yellow pads.
Wow.
That's why they're there. And I don't know, when I went to school, and at least where I am, I don't know where you are, but the walls were all this kind of yellowy, dingy, beige color. It wasn't quite white, but it wasn't really yellow. But it had a yellow tint to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it too. And you see a lot of schools have this kind of very soft, off-whitey yellow color because it helps you study better, helps you learn better.
I wasn't aware of that, so I don't remember what the walls of my school were, especially elementary school. I'm not sure they painted schools back then. But,
they were just kind of dingy, and it was kind of a forgotten color, but it did have a yellow tone to it.
Yeah. So I guess in the hospital they try to do color. I was unfortunately in the hospital recently, and the walls there were kind of like an off whitish,
Mm-hmm.
very subdued color. I remember that. So I guess that would
Hospitals,
help in the hospital, yeah, to help people be calm, I guess.
hospitals typically will use, depending on what part of the hospital you're in,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to use blue, green, or pink.
Okay, maybe
And
it was greenish, yeah.
the reason is that all of them, first of all, are calming colors.
Okay.
And if you're in the hospital, it's usually not a good thing. You know, even if you're going in for like having a baby or something, it's still a pretty stressful time.
Yeah.
So
Not a fun place, no.
Yeah, it's not really a fun place. You know, even if you're just giving blood, that can be really stressful for a lot of people. So, but pink has a very inherent calming influence. And both green and blue actually have healing properties to them. And
Okay.
so depending on what part of the hospital you're in, they'll use one of those colors.
Okay, so what would be in the green room?
Green room is probably more the waiting room,
Okay.
because green helps you deal with change.
Uh-huh.
And blue is, so green is more of a mental healing. Blue is more of a physical healing. I don't know how it works, but blue actually can help retard the progression of a disease.
Really?
And so you will see a lot of times the drapes around, like the ICU, or like if you're in the emergency room, you'll see the drapes. Oftentimes those are blue. I've seen some purple ones too, which is really intriguing to me, because purple is more of a spiritual color and it's about new beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, when I'm in the emergency room, it's only happened a couple times, but that's not really a new beginning for me.
Depending on how what the outcome is, it could be a beginning, but not here.
Yeah. So
now, okay, so at the other end of the spectrum, we got, what is it, purple, indigo, I forget.
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, okay.
Green, blue, purple, yellow, orange, red.
Yeah, now some friends of mine that I used to go visit, this is years ago now, they bought a house, and apparently the kids' room was painted all black.
Ooh.
It was a creepy room, and it turned out to be the guest room temporarily until they were able to paint over it. But
that can be dangerous. I mean, that is seriously physically dangerous.
Really?
I have a friend of mine who is also a color expert. She had a client who had a teenage boy, and teenage boy, right? Black. Mm-hmm. And where do teenage boys spend most of their room? Most of the time, it's in their room.
In their room, yeah.
And so she was working on the rest of the house, and Mom was like, "Oh, we just did his room. You don't need to go in there. You don't need to go in there." Well, as they were working on other stuff, the son was getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, and they couldn't figure out. The doctors are like, his adrenals are shutting down. We don't know why. They did all kinds of tests on him, and they couldn't figure it out. So finally, the kid's in the hospital, and nobody seems to know why. He's just shutting down. And she's like, "Look, I got to see in his room. Just please, it's not going to hurt anything for me to go look in his room." Everything was black, and our bodies need color. Yeah. This is, it's such an important part of what we do. I mean, God is the greatest artist there is. And if you look around at anything he's made, there's nothing he does that's all one color.
Yeah.
And so this room was just all black, and she says, "You've got to change this." They did, and he started getting better and better and better, and he didn't have any more problems after that.
Wow.
Yeah. Very
powerful stuff. Well, this leads me to another question. Should kids be allowed to pick their own colors for their rooms?
I think so. I think that kids are much more intuitive about their bodies than we as adults are. Mm-hmm. I know there were foods that I hated when I was a kid, and my mom was not one who made us eat food that we hated. But as an adult, I learned to like them. And then later on, I got some illnesses that meant I couldn't eat those foods. So I knew I wasn't supposed to do that, and there were certain colors that I was drawn to, and I didn't know why. But as I've grown up and learned more about all this stuff, I look back and go, well, of course you were drawn to those. And kids, everybody says kids are, they can deal with change. I mean, so many kids have to deal with divorces and separations and, 1, 2, 3 marriages, whatever. And they say kids just are so pliable, and they're not. But when they only know one thing, they learn to adjust. And so they're much more in tune with that. We outthink it as we get older, and they're much more in tune with their bodies than we are. So if a kid tells me it wants a color, I'm not going to say no. If they want an all-black room, I'm going to tell them no way. If they want some black in the room, I'll say, okay, look, we can do that, but let's do underneath a chair rail. Let's do a black ceiling. Let's do one black wall. I mean, there's ways you can do black that is absolutely beautiful, and it's not going to kill your kid. So I think that you have to honor that childhood intuition. And you think about it, what was your favorite color when you were 5?
I think it was blue. It still is blue, I think.
Uh-huh. See?
Yeah. Plus I'm a winter, so I like navy blue and a true burgundy, and I think a true red also.
Yeah, you get those very deep colors, and you like a very soft, there's a stillness that you like that is really kind of interesting to create in a home as well. My energy is like, if you were to come to my house, you would go, oh my God, there's just too much going on here.
Okay.
But simplicity is everything for you.
Okay.
And you probably don't have a lot of accessories around your house. There's, minimalization is a key.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably have a few just really cool pieces of furniture, and it's not a ton of little stuff. So each season it's not just the colors and the shapes, and it's how much stuff do you need around you. And then all of this gets influenced by what were you raised with, who are you married to, who lives in your house. There's a lot of elements that come into this, and it's just balancing them all.
Okay. I got one question I need to ask you, because I think you've mentioned this prior to this interview. Is that certain colors in a room can make you hungry?
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, so we'll go back to the fast food restaurants because that's really easy. So Burger King, McDonald's, all of your, In-N-Out, all of your fast food places. And even back when we had coffee shops, I'm not talking about Starbucks, but I'm talking about Denny's and places like that. The furniture inside was always red and orange. And their logos use red and orange, and often yellow too, but it's always red and orange. And the reason is that those two colors actually make you hungry. Red can actually enhance the taste of your food. And they also make you, because the energy is so high, you're not going to hang out in those colors for a long time. There's a new chain right now that is, from a color perspective, it's fascinating to me. It's called The Habit, and I don't know if it's where you are, but it's growing quite fast. So it will be.
Yeah. What kind of food is it?
It's hamburgers. It's a little bit nicer than your typical fast food hamburger, but it's not restaurant hamburger.
Okay.
So it's kind of a middle ground. So what they did was they do have some red, but they have it, and it's kind of, in the design industry, we call it kind of a Chinese red. So it's like a terracotta-y red. It's not fire engine red.
Okay.
And they use that in accents. And because it's this terracotta-y red, it has a little bit of orange in it too. Mm-hmm. So they used it, but they used it sparingly because they don't want people to, they didn't want to push people out quickly, but they don't want to have you there a really long time either, because they're small places. It's like your typical McDonald's or Wendy's or something.
Right.
It's about that size.
And they're certainly not going to paint it black, are they?
No. And then they used an orange wood. So they're trying to be a little bit more upscale fast food establishment.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of wood, but it's got like an orange tint to it.
Right.
So they're using the orange, they're using the red, but it's done in a very sophisticated way. And it's really clever because it gives you this feeling of more upscale, but at the same time, you don't want to hang out there for hours.
All right. Well, good. So, any last thoughts about color and its impact on our life?
It's from everything that you have, the color of your plates, where you go shopping, the color, everything affects who you are, how others see you, and how you feel in a space. And my big thing is be daring, be bold. It's only paint. Go get some cans, put a big swatch on the wall. And so many people are just afraid. That's why I wrote my book, because I don't want people to be afraid of color and then just go get Swiss coffee because they don't know what to do. And
okay. Right. But you still got that swatch of paint on the wall that you're afraid to tackle, so that'll be there for a long time. So what's that? Neighbors come over. What's that? So we're checking out on the color. So
well, that's why you get what's color got to do with it, because it'll help you get past that.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your work and how people can find you and your book.
You can find me at thecolorwhisperer.com, and my book is available there. It's also available on Amazon, and it's on Kindle there as well. And I'm located mainly in Pasadena, California, so if you want some personal assistance, I'd be happy to help you. And I can do a lot via the web these days, so there's a lot of virtual work I can do with people as well.
Mm-hmm. Especially with Skype, and,
oh, yeah.
and you can see somebody's house, they can see you, and it's just amazing the technology that we have these days. Thank you for some wonderful information, especially about the colors, and now I know a little bit more about myself, being the winter that I am, and I think made some good assessments there. So my guest today has been, Jeanette, I forgot your last name already.
Chasworth. It's okay.
So sorry. Jeanette Chasworth. She is the Color Whisperer. Go to her site and buy at least 2 copies of her book, because I screwed up the name of her last name. So buy 2 copies of her book and hire her, and you can use her on Skype as well, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, Jeanette, thank you so much for being on the show and for giving us some great information.
Thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Total Mind Success Podcast. I'm Donick S. Cause. Please listen again.